Fans question: was Jungkook and Jimin's vacation linked to Are You Sure Season 2? What initially appeared as a simple private getaway has rapidly transformed into one of the most scrutinized moments in recent BTS discourse, raising an unsettling question that refuses to fade. Was Jungkook and Jimin's vacation truly just a break, or was it quietly connected to the future of Are You Sure Season 2? The timing alone is enough to unsettle even the most cautious observers. At a moment when speculation surrounding Are You Sure remains unresolved, images and fragments of Jungkook and Jimin spending time away from public schedules surfaced with unusual intensity. Fans did not react with celebration alone. Instead, they paused, examined, and began connecting dots. In an era where every move by BTS members carries layered meaning, coincidence is no longer easily accepted. The question grew louder because this was not an ordinary break. The absence of casual framing, the controlled exposure, and the quiet nature of the trip immediately separated it from typical leisure narratives. Fans noticed the restraint. No excessive sharing. No spontaneous explanations. Silence in this context became information. And silence, for an audience trained by years of subtle signals, is never neutral. Are You Sure holds a unique position in BTS-related content. It is not merely entertainment. It is observation, vulnerability, and unscripted interaction framed as intimacy. Season 1 left behind unresolved emotional resonance, not closure. That lingering tension is precisely why the idea of a second season remains powerful. When Jungkook and Jimin appeared together in an unstructured setting, fans instinctively asked whether creative discussions could occur in spaces that appear informal by design. The speculation intensified because of behavioral patterns that longtime followers recognize well. Historically, BTS-related projects have often been preceded by periods of low visibility, controlled narratives, and subtle alignment between members involved. Jungkook and Jimin's synchronized absence from other activities during this period did not go unnoticed. Fans began questioning whether privacy itself was the environment required for conceptual alignment. There is also the emotional dimension that cannot be dismissed. Are You Sure was built on chemistry, tension, humor, and sincerity between its participants. That dynamic cannot be manufactured overnight. It must be preserved, revisited, and recalibrated. A shared vacation, away from performance pressure, would logically provide the psychological space needed for such recalibration. This possibility, while unconfirmed, feels disturbingly plausible. Online discussions reveal a fanbase divided between restraint and suspicion. Some argue that reading intent into a vacation is intrusive. Others counter that BTS has trained its audience to read between lines, because meaning has often been communicated indirectly. The tension between these positions is what keeps the debate alive, unresolved, and emotionally charged. What makes the situation more compelling is the absence of denial or contextual framing. The lack of narrative guidance leaves room for interpretation, and interpretation quickly becomes theory. Fans are not inventing fantasies. They are responding to patterns established over years of content evolution. In this ecosystem, silence amplifies curiosity rather than calming it. Whether the vacation was directly linked to Are You Sure Season may second not be immediately answered. But the question itself reflects something deeper. Fans no longer separate personal moments from creative intent when it comes to Jungkook and Jimin. Their bond, both visible and implied, has become a narrative force of its own as speculation continues to circulate. One reality is clear. This was not just a vacation in the eyes of the audience. It became a symbol, a trigger, and a mirror reflecting unresolved expectations surrounding Are You Sure? Until clarity emerges, the question will remain suspended, pressing and unavoidable. Was this merely time away, or the quiet beginning of something already set in motion? The persistence of this narrative now forces a more uncomfortable examination, not only of Jungkook and Jimin's actions, but of the audience's role in constructing meaning from fragments that may never have been intended as signals. At what point does observation become assumption, and when does collective curiosity transform into a manufactured certainty that no longer requires evidence to survive? It is crucial to acknowledge that much of the discourse surrounding this vacation originates from secondary circulation. Short-form videos, clipped footage, speculative commentary, and algorithm-driven amplification on platforms such as TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter have shaped the public's perception far more than any verifiable sequence of events. Can a narrative built on repetition and emotional resonance be mistaken for factual truth simply because it feels convincing? The intensity of belief surrounding a possible connection to Are You Sure Season 2 exposes a broader vulnerability within digital media consumption. When emotionally invested audiences encounter ambiguity, they often fill informational gaps with expectation rather than restraint. Is this process a natural extension of fandom, or does it reveal how easily interpretive frameworks can override skepticism? One must also confront the uncomfortable possibility that this entire discourse operates within a feedback loop designed to sustain attention. If speculation generates engagement, and engagement sustains visibility, who truly benefits from ambiguity remaining unresolved? Is silence always meaningful, or has silence itself become a narrative tool whose power lies precisely in its refusal to clarify? The absence of confirmation does not automatically validate suspicion, nor does denial of intent negate the emotional response triggered by perceived patterns. The critical issue lies in how confidently interpretations are presented as near fact, often stripped of their speculative origins. When viewers encounter headlines framed as questions but emotionally structured as conclusions, are they being informed or guided toward belief? This raises a fundamental question that cannot be avoided. Do audiences genuinely seek truth, or do they seek coherence that aligns with prior expectations? The distinction matters, because coherence without verification is the foundation upon which misinformation thrives. If a story feels internally consistent, does that make it real, or merely persuasive? It is therefore necessary to pause and interrogate the narrative itself. Are we witnessing an authentic sequence of events with meaningful implications, or a carefully sustained illusion reinforced by selective interpretation and platform incentives? Does the repetition of a theory across multiple channels confirm its validity, or simply demonstrate the efficiency of digital echo chambers? Critical engagement demands restraint. It requires acknowledging uncertainty without rushing to resolution. The information circulating at present, drawn from various media environments, remains unverified and incomplete. Accepting this limitation is not a dismissal of curiosity, but a defense against manipulation. Ultimately, the responsibility does not rest solely with content creators or media outlets. It rests equally with the audience. Before accepting any narrative, one must ask, what evidence is present, what assumptions are embedded, and what emotions are being activated to bypass doubt? Without this scrutiny, sensationalism does not merely mislead, it conditions belief. The continuation of this discourse demands an even stricter intellectual discipline, because repetition without escalation risks transforming analysis into affirmation. At this stage, the issue is no longer confined to Jungkook and Jimin, nor to the speculative linkage with Are You Sure Season 2, but to the mechanisms through which belief is shaped, reinforced, and normalized within contemporary media ecosystems. Every narrative gains power not from its origin but from its reception. When audiences repeatedly encounter the same framing across different platforms, the distinction between corroboration and replication becomes dangerously blurred. Does the presence of similar claims on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter indicate independent validation, or does it merely reveal how a single interpretation can proliferate unchecked across interconnected networks? It is here that skepticism becomes not an act of cynicism, but of responsibility. To question is not to deny. To doubt is not to dismiss. Rather, it is to refuse passive consumption. If viewers fail to interrogate the sources, motives, and structural incentives behind such narratives, they risk becoming participants in the very process that sustains ambiguity as spectacle. The emotional charge surrounding this topic further complicates rational assessment. Emotional investment can sharpen attention, but it can also distort judgment. When attachment to individuals or outcomes becomes intense, neutrality is often perceived as indifference or hostility. Is it possible, then, to analyze this situation without allowing admiration, loyalty, or anticipation to influence conclusions? Equally troubling is the speed at which tentative interpretations harden into assumed realities. Language shifts subtly but decisively, from could be connected to likely connected, and eventually to clearly connected. At what point does speculation stop announcing itself as speculation? And who bears responsibility when that transition goes unnoticed? The current narrative thrives precisely because it resists closure. Uncertainty